All right, 99.9 Punk World Radio FM. You guys already know what time it is. And right here, we actually have a punk rock legend in the building. That's right. We got Jason DeVore of Authority Zero right here live on 99.9 FM. And of course, Facebook and YouTube as well. How are you doing this evening, Jason?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks very much. How are you doing?
Oh, man, doing best I can possibly be down here in Canada. Just enjoying the last, I believe the last couple weeks of summer, man. So hopefully I can squeeze a little bit more beach days out of that.
Yeah, I hope so too, dude. It's been actually weirdly cooler around Arizona as of the last few days, which is kind of false hope for us because you know how hot it gets here. But we're already back into the hotter days as it is. We probably got a good couple of months ahead of us still before things cool down.
And I know as well, you actually just got off a European tour, man. Like, what was it like actually being out there in Europe?
We did, dude. It was awesome, man. It's like we started going out to Europe finally around the year 2009, I believe it was. And like a lot of the bands that got out there in the earlier years of their career, we didn't get a good start on that until later on in our career. So it's been like a building block process from the beginning of 2009, essentially. And it's been really cool because each year we've gone back. You just kind of see the growth and development and the people recognizing the name more, remembering the band's even still around, things like that, because they hadn't seen us there play before. You know, so things like that. And you start seeing this fan base really growing and the community starting to really acknowledge that you're a group that's out there doing the work and putting the work in. And so we've been doing it 100% every time we've gone over there and had a really great time since we have. And this one was probably one of my favorite, most of the guys' favorite European tours we've done to date, just because of all those elements combined.
And also as well, I got to bring you back to the very beginning, the year 1994, 29 years ago, which is crazy to actually think 29 years ago. You actually became a founding member of Authority Zero. I was wondering, what is the story actually behind this group for the individuals that don't know the origin story? And of course, how did you guys actually get connected and decide to come together as one to form this now iconic band?
Yeah, I'll give you the long story short. Really, like I was born in Arizona. My parents divorced, moved to Wyoming, and my dad stayed here in Arizona. And then I would visit him in the summer times. And one year when I was about 13, 14 years old, I met a neighbor named Jerry Douglas who lived in the same complex as my father. And he was into the same kind of things as I was, like skateboarding and things of that nature and punk rock music. And he had a bunch of friends who went to school at Westwood High School in guitar class with him. So I met those guys that summer as well, and we all became buddies. And I was in a little band back home called DEA, which was Deranged Egotistical Assholes. It was the first punk band that I jumped into as like a super young kid. Couldn't play guitar, couldn't sing. Really, my mom sang. My mom's side of the family were all singers. So I could hold a note for the most part, but I wasn't really, any good at really any of it, to be honest with you. But we needed a singer back then, so I was the guy. And with the guys here in Arizona, those guys had written a couple of songs on acoustic guitar. Bill Marks, Jeremy Wood, and Jerry Douglas, and J.W. Gordon, who came a little bit later on for drums. We just sat down one day, smoking cigarettes, hanging out, drinking beer, as young kids do. And I started writing a song to a song they put together, acoustic, and started singing it. And it was about over a course of 30 minutes. And Bill saw some potential in me as maybe being a singer to start a band. And he's like, "Hey, dude, that's really pretty good. You want to start a band and be our singer?" I was like, "Sure, whatever. No big deal. Why not?" Wasn't top of my list because I didn't live there. So we did. And I went about my days like skateboarding and just hanging out, doing my thing. But that's when the band initially started. And then from there, we started taking it seriously. We're like, well, we got to play house parties now. We got to get together. We got to do this. What bands do. Started playing like little parking lots, finding pretty much electricity wherever we could find it around the city and just plugging in to play. And that's kind of how it all started, man. And then here we are 29 years later. Shit's happened since then.
A lot of shit has happened, man. Like I said, it's crazy to think it's 29 years as well, and you guys have done so much amazing things since then.
Thank you, man. It's been a whole lifetime of stuff that's gone into this. Absolutely, it's been a lot of fun and a lot of this, a lot of that, a lot of this, a lot of that. But ultimately, it's been just a hell of a ride. I wouldn't change a thing.
And also as well, in the year 2001, you guys actually released an independent EP titled Patches in Time. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us the story behind this amazing EP. And of course, since it's actually independent, I also read that it actually sold a lot of units. What avenues did you guys take to actually sell so many units?
Back in the early days, man, we're talking early days again. We're like '99 or something of this nature. You know, that's the EP we put out. It was a six to seven song EP, and it did obtain a lot of the songs, almost all of the songs that are on our first actual Universal release. Universal being worldwide or whatever, as the full length album. And the process with that was we just had a bunch of very old songs that we wrote initially in '95 through '99, I guess. Took those songs, recorded them sporadically throughout the valley, wherever we could find a spot to record them. But mostly recorded at our friend Derek Seidensticker's house, who was a local DJ here for a show called the Ska Punk Show on 106.3 The Edge. And so he took us in a little bit under his wing, basically, and had a home studio. We recorded them there over and over again. And with that, he also had the ability to give us radio airplay on Sunday nights for a thing called Backyard Bullocks, which was a ska punk show. They played all sorts of old school stuff, Descendants, you know, Rancid, all those bands that we all looked up to growing up. And that one local band they would play every Sunday. So he put us on that after a lot of harping on him, you know, like, come on, give us a chance kind of thing. And he did. And then word got to the major station, actual people in that main format of it. And we slowly began to get one of our other songs on main radio. And then it kind of took off here locally, and people kept calling it in and checking it out. And so we got our records in, or that record, into a local record company place called Zia Records, a local record store. And that's where a lot of our units were sold. They're on the streets at shows, you know. That's kind of where the whole thing grassrooted from. And then the rest was going on, you know, from there.
And I got to say, radio definitely helped out so many amazing bands back in the day, especially in the late 90s, early 2000s. If you got radio airplay, there's great chances that you never know who else is actually going to hear your music and just how far that reach is really going to go.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I mean, I still believe in it to some extent these days. You know, it's like it's a dinosaur of sorts, of course, but I still, you know, you still learn of a lot of interesting bands here and again that pop up. You're like, never would have thought about that, never would have known about that. It's clearly, like, you know, more the mainstream way to hear things, but it's something, to me, not in that regard. It's more something that's just a constant in your car that's playing. It's something that's just constantly out there, and it's a way to introduce people to music they might not have heard of once again, you know, and that's bands such as ourselves. And that was really a big breaking element in our takeoff from, you know, we were a band 7 years before we started actually touring. So that's really what helped us branch out and get more nationally known and start doing some national touring, as well as what led to our first record being a possibility on the grand scale that it became.
And speaking of your first record, that actually dropped September 10th of the year 2000 over on Lava Records. I was wondering if you can just tell us the story behind that record deal. And of course, like, how did you guys ultimately get discovered by Lava?
Well, that kind of leads back to what I was just talking about with the radio stuff. So locally, big labels and all labels basically have access to what's being played on the radio and what's going on in what areas, and they pay attention to that stuff. A lot of them are already signed bands that are accounted for. They're still keeping their eye on them just in case something happens. They can scoop them up. We were a band that was locally getting a shitload of plays and was not signed to anybody. No one had really heard of. They didn't really understand what was going on, so it drew their attention, and then that in turn drew more labels' attentions, because they saw that these labels were not paying attention. And then the snowball effect kind of occurred. And then it turned into them coming out here and watching us play some shows, which were escalating quickly with attendance. And they were like, okay, it's probably just a fly-by-night kind of situation. But it kept happening, and people kept on staying interested, and they kept coming to the shows in more amounts. And so they came out again. And then they, you know, everybody tried to wine and dine us and all this shit. You know, there was like a label battle going on between Universal and Republic with Lava Atlantic. And right when we thought we were about to sign with Universal Republic, suddenly Lava comes back with better terms that we really liked more as far as creativity and all the things that we wanted to do went. And we literally last minute, chose that option instead. And then that's when we put our first full-length album out, of Passage in Time, and did a 2-record contract with them. And that was that one in Andiamo.
And also, aside from Authority Zero, just for a few moments, between the years of 2006 to 2019, you actually released not one, not two, but 3 volumes of your Conviction album series. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us a bit more about this particular album series. And of course, do you actually have plans to actually release a fourth one in the foreseeable future?
Yes, I can. I did actually just now get back from the studio, the recording studio here locally, mixing down the fourth record that I'm working on right now. And the long story short with that is I'm constantly writing music. A lot of it comes on acoustic guitars, and where a lot of the songs come from and stem from for basic melody and just riffs in general. So a lot of these songs, I started just writing songs that were really abstract, not even intentionally, just writing songs. I was like, oh, that's a good melody. That's cool. And I'll write that song. And I write that song. And I was like, this really would not work with my band whatsoever. It's like a completely different element, which even though the band has so many different elements across the board that we like to incorporate, and it's all music to us, this just was like a completely different monster. Some of these songs I was putting together. So I asked my friend Brian Sandell, he had a very small home studio and garage band, if I showed him one song, and he's like, I'm like, would you be down for like recording this track? I'm like, I'd just love to see what could possibly turn into and the potential of it. And so we did, and I was like, that's freaking cool. And so then I had a couple other ideas, and those stemmed and kept on being recorded. And before I knew it, I did have a full-length album of like 10 songs or something like that. And so like, well, might as well put this record out and make it an actual official record, because here we are. So then he and I started a record label of our own called Operation Records. And so just to give us some kind of footing to put something out and at least present it to the public and all that. Press some CDs, did things like that too, and put it out. And then we did another one after that because we had fun with that. And then after that, I got really excited about this solo thing, just the solo side music and the inspiration of different elements of music coming into my life the older I got as well. And really started latching onto those and just writing music specifically for that. And that's kind of how the whole process has gone since, man. I started playing out locally, open mic nights, because I wasn't very good at playing acoustic guitar. And these songs particularly were different. I just wanted to play them to the public, not even under my name, Jason from Authority Zero, but just Jason DeVore, to get an actual reaction of the music I put together and see that people actually were interested in it like I was, just because, to experiment more than anything. And so started doing a bunch of open mic nights just under the radar. And then that kind of developed and grew a fan base of its own as well. And so here I am working on the fourth one. And this is the first one I've done under an independent label still, but a local, actual put together with pretty good backing label locally called Double Helix Records that reached out to me. Thanks to my friend Yodam Heron from Useless ID. He did a record on theirs as well, solo. So he talked to them about me. They were like, yeah, we've heard of Jason DeVore, Authority Zero, whatever, Yeah, he's like, no, have you heard his solo stuff? And they're like, no, we never heard of solo stuff. And so they checked it out, contacted me. We put this whole thing together, and here we are putting our first record out together as number 4 of the catalog. And it's very exciting.
And when you mentioned a few moments ago about doing open mic nights and performing as a solo artist under the moniker Jason DeVore, your obviously your government name, I saw on your Instagram story that you actually posted that you actually have a couple of those performances actually coming up. If I'm not mistaken, the August 25th and the 26th.
Yeah, this weekend coming up here. I got one of my favorite spots called the Dubliner Irish Pub. It's up in Phoenix. And I used to go see a guy named Tony Cummins there. I'm big into Irish folk and Celtic music. And so back in the day, I came across him at this place. And I was like, man, that guy just got it. As a solo guy, he was like this one guy up there with an acoustic guitar, straight from Dublin, got the whole crowd riled up with like older people, younger people all combined, and just packed the place in, had a blast there. So I talked to the owners and said, I'd love to play your establishment. So I did, started getting in there. And this will be my first time back in there in about a year, I think. So I'm looking really forward to this show. And then one in Scottsdale at this place called Pub Rock, which is also Nancy Stevens, who was the person who was the program director at the Edge 106.3 back in the day, I'd mentioned with the radio stations. She runs that place. So it's all kind of come full circle again with all these people involved.
And also, speaking of performing, Authority Zero also had the opportunity to perform at the iconic Vans Warped Tour. I was wondering, for the individuals that never had the opportunity to experience within their own eyes a Vans Warped Tour, I was wondering if you can actually just tell us a story behind your experiences, and of course, what is actually one of your most fondest memories of this performing on that iconic stage?
We did the Warped Tour, yeah, the Vans Warped Tour. We did that for about 7 years, I think, back to back, almost even. We did an abandoned trailer. One thing I'd say is any bands that are, That tour was it's gone on since then, But back then it was certainly a bus tour, we'll say, because a lot of the drives you'd play depending upon what time your set was. You wouldn't know until you got there that day, but you needed to be there at 5:30 a.m. I think it was to pick out your merch spot, go set up your merch tent, all these things, get sorted. And you always wanted to make sure you got a good one, so you weren't just kind of back in the corner, of course, because there's so much going on. You go there, you do that, you find out what time you're playing that day. Sometimes you're the first band on the Volcom stage. Sometimes you're the first one on the Ernie Ball stage. Sometimes you didn't play till the very last on the, whatever stage too. So every day was different, which was kind of cool about it. It was very sporadic, and in that regard. So those were a lot of fun. It was just fun. It was like big summer camp. You got to hang out with all the bands, obviously. You got these barbecues after the whole thing's said and done. You get to see your favorite bands you grew up playing with all throughout the day, every day. So everyone's going through the same motions of exhaustion, excitement, having a blast, just like late nights, all these things, parties. So it was just a great experience all around, man. It was really fun. I mean, I used to go up there first thing in the morning. I'd get my flyers. We'd make flyers on Kinko's the night before. And I'd get out there bright and early in the morning and find the tallest light poles I could find and climb to the top of them and stick our flyers at the top in like neon green or orange or pink to make sure they stood out. Because over the course of a day, people would start sticking their flyers over top of other people's flyers for their set times. And so I made sure that our shit was up high to make sure that we could stick their stuff on top unless they had the balls to climb the thing, So those are some of my fondest memories. I mean, there was no specific show that really stands out. It's all kind of a hodgepodge in my brain, to be honest with you, because it was so fast-paced. But just the entire memory of Warped Tour is the standout part of this career of this band and the memories of it. And Kevin Lyman helping us out time and again, getting us on those. Ernie Ball was a big supporter, getting us on their stage the years we couldn't make it on. So just a lot of help, a lot of camaraderie, and just the unification of everyone that came together on those things to make it a really cool experience.
And also in May of 2023, you guys also shared the stage with a 13-year-old Phoenix musician who actually wrote music about his experiences with bone cancer. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us a bit more about that. And of course, what was it like just being up there and sharing the stage with Alex Etheridge?
Yeah, Alex Etheridge, man, that was such a power story and just one of those stories of strength and endurance and the love of music and just like how that can help keep you healthy and alive and driven, because he was such a fighter. He was in such a bad state of his cancer that it's amazing he even was able to come and play with us. Honestly, he was going through treatments leading up to the actual sound check, had to leave the show leave the sound check to go back and rest and take medication to come back just to play that show, which was a room full of 2,000 people. There was no air conditioning, basically super hot. You're getting worn out by even being in the room. So his strength and enduring a lot of that was just incredible to me and the entire band. But we met him through a friend of ours, Paige Beechler. She actually introduced us because the family reached out to her, and she contacted me and was like, hey, there's this kid, to explain the situation with School of Rock. And I've done some work with School of Rock in the past myself, helping kids with music and things in those departments. And I was like, absolutely, I'd love to do whatever we can to help this become a reality for him, get him on stage. And it was like, it started out kind of simple, like, do you mind signing something for him or doing this and that? And it's like, well, yeah, he's down to play, but he's got the strength for it. Let's get him on a song. And so he did our first single, One More Minute, with us up there. And it was just beautiful, man. His family came out, his grandparents, like his mom, his dad, got to meet them. He got to hang out with my drummer, Chris Daly, and do some chops with him backstage before the show, And it was just awesome, man. He killed it that night. The crowd was chanting his name, and it was just a beautiful moment. And it just, once again, was how music brings so much hope and so much energy and life to people, and just is a driving force in life in general. It's pretty much everything. So he unfortunately passed away. We found out on tour. We were over in Europe, I think it was, when we found this out the first week or so, that he ended up not making it. And so that was sad breaking news, obviously. But he really did power up in his final days of life and get to really experience some really cool things and really gave it everything he had. So it's a really, really, really cool thing all around.
And also next month, you guys are actually going to be going off on another tour starting September 5th, where you're going on tour with Mest and Bowling for Soup on the Getting Old Sucks tour. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us what we can actually expect from the Authority Zero portion of this tour? And of course, where can we actually go to actually snag ourselves some tickets?
You can expect a lot of fun, man. We've been having a great year. Like I say, we're nice and seasoned this year because we've been playing constantly this whole year of touring. So we're nice and warmed up. We're ready to go back on the road. Obviously, it's only been a couple weeks since Europe. We got home. So the tour with these guys is going to be a lot of fun. We've been friends with these guys a very long time with Bowling for Soup and with Mest since the Warped Tour days. You know, that's kind of where we started kind of really communicating and getting to know one another. And so now that we are older and going on this Getting Old Sucks tour, it's just going to be a lot of chopping it up, old school times. You know, we've been on a tour since then as well. So it's just going to be a lot of catching up, a lot of summer camp kind of activities and festivities, just really casual hangs and kicking it, and a lot of positive energy. So we're all going to bring a lot of that with us as well. And it's going to be a lot of fun all around, front to back. Fun is the biggest word I can say. It's not going to be aggressive. It's not going to be angry. It's not going to be pissed. It's not going to be like, you know, bring your bleed towels and all these things. It's just going to be a fun tour. So come and have a good time, and go to authoritysero.com for your tickets. And I'm sure Bowling for Soup has got a site up as well. Bowling for Soup on their websites. They can also get tickets there on top of it. But authoritysero.com, you can also retrieve them from us at that website.
And I got to say, when I saw the dates on there and I saw All America, I was like, damn, as a Canadian, I was super jealous. So I hope you guys do a Canadian leg of this tour, because I could only imagine Authority Zero, Mest, and Bowling for Soup on one show. Man, that's like a punk rock kid's dream right there.
I bet you once this goes through, and I have no doubt in my mind it's going to go really well and off without a hitch, I guarantee it'll probably become a topic of conversation.
But also, obviously, you know, we only touch base on a sliver of your iconic career here this evening on the radio station. But with that being said, what is next for yourself? Like, is there anything we happen to miss during this evening's interview? Anything else you do still want to talk about or promote? Well, we still got you here live on the radio station airwaves this evening.
Sure. I mean, a few years back, I guess, not music. Well, it is music related, I guess. But I started really getting back into artwork and doing my own art, which is kind of a cool thing that came from the whole COVID thing, whatever, you know. So it's something I really dove into as a way to just be creative and keep busy. And it got me really excited. I really started getting into it heavily to where it's become something of a side career other than music, but also incorporating music and the arts combined, because it's lyrical content art. I can actually show you, because I got some right here, weirdly enough. It's not even planned. We know this isn't planned, but I'm in my office. But here's like one, Ollie Ollie Oxenfree was our last record, and I did this art piece right here.
Man, that's kick-ass.
And it's all...
That's really good.
Yeah, thank you, man. As you can see, lyric art for the songs over top. And these are things I do on the road now when I'm in between drives. I've got one right here for Revolution, which is one of my first ones I did, which is super simple. Did this on a napkin, you know? So things like that. And then there's ones that got as cool as, while we're here, the reflective print stuff like No Regrets and things like that, which...
Oh, that's cool. It's like holographic. I like that.
Yeah, so you can find all these things, if we're promoting, you can find all these things at DeVoreArtsAndImagery.com. If you want to pick those up, you can grab some online at DeVoreArtsAndImagery.com. I've also done skateboards of these. And I've also got a skateboard company that I started years back with my friend Clay Lake called Earth Skateboards. If you want to check out skateearth.com, you can check out some of our pro riders on there doing some pretty wicked shit in the van skate parks and all around the world, as well as some of our merchandise and skateboards.
And I do know as well that actually a lot of bands actually do, like, you know, those big poster prints, and they have autographs of all the members of the bands. Do you guys actually, do you actually have plans of actually taking one of your amazing art pieces that you just showed and kind of make copies of them and actually, you know, do that kind of like that VIP purchase or merch table purchase where it has all your autographs also on the art piece? My apologies.
With these, that's a possibility. It's been very much an individualized project for the most part, you know, to this point. But I do think that a lot of people that aren't aware of it would be super stoked to see them at the merch table, to like come and check it out, even if they were just even more, you know, not like these are all silk screen prints, so they're a bit more on the pricey side. But I think it'd be cool to actually do some just prints to have out there on the merch table for kids to check out for the bands to sign. So I'll take that into consideration. I think we'll probably get that figured out. That'd be kind of cool.
And also, Jason, before we actually part ways here this evening, obviously I know how to follow you on social media. All the fans know how, but for people that actually aren't that social media savvy, that want to stay updated on not only yourself, Jason DeVore, but also all of Authority Zero, how can they actually go about following yourself and the rest of the band on all social media platforms?
I'm not great at that. I'm learning more about that, but you can go check out. It's obviously authorityzero.com is our hub. It's got all of our links there for the Authority stuff. Go get our YouTube there. Our YouTube videos are popping up all the time with tour videos and things of that nature. If you want to go to Jason DeVore, the Jason DeVore YouTube, I've just refurbished that with Authority Zero combined. I do on tour with DeVore, and it's basically, well, I'm on tour with my band. I'll be videotaping behind the scenes, fun things like that, and making little segments of those sessions for people to check out as well. So as a whole, authorityzero.com for the band, and it'll lead you to all the different veins of promotional tool and things like that, online stuff.
And I got to say, first and foremost, Jason, thank you so much for giving not only myself, but the radio station airways with a bit of your time, man. I've been, like I told you before we went live, I've been a huge fan of you guys for so many years, man. So thank you for making not only music that I had the opportunity to enjoy for so many years, but also all the fans had the chance to enjoy as well, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening, man, all these years, and everybody else out there who's been listening. Thank you very much for your support throughout the years and the continued years to come. We'll see you guys at the shows.
Most definitely, Jason. Thank you so much. Have yourself a wonderful night.
You too. Thanks, brother.